In this lesson, we're going to be looking at how to make a pie graph, or also called a circle graph. The thing you need to know about circle graphs is that a circle graph is used when you want to compare parts of a whole. That means you're taking 100% of the information and you're breaking it into parts. And so what you have to do is you're going to have to figure out the percentage of each category before you can graph it with your protractor. So I have a table right here that we're going to fill out as we read this. 50 people were surveyed and asked their favorite fruit. The results were 13 people liked apples, 11 people liked oranges, 15 people liked bananas, 6 people liked grapes, and 5 people liked blueberries. I like to organize it in a table right here because we also have 2 other columns that we have to do, so it makes the information easy to read. Now, in order to figure out the percentage, you have to know the total number that was surveyed. It actually told you up here how many were surveyed. If it did not tell you how many, you would have to add together all of the numbers here. And when you add them all together, you would find out that indeed there was 50 people who was surveyed. Now, figuring out the percentage, what you're going to do is take the number that liked apples and divide it by the total. So you would do 13 divided by 50. Now, with 50 being the total, calculating the percentage is actually very easy. All you have to do is double the number, and that's the percent. But you're not always going to have 50 as your total. You're going to have numbers that are unable to do mentally, so you have to know the steps here. So you're going to take the number of apples, people who chose apples, and divide by the total. On your calculator, that would get 26 hundredths. You have to turn that into a percent. To turn that into a percent, it would be 26%. Because you move the decimal over twice. Now here's what I suggest right at this point. We're going to go ahead and calculate the angle degree with our calculator. Now you already have this showing on your calculator, 26 hundredths. Now as a percent, that is 26%. But to figure out the angle total, the angle degree, we know that there are 360 degrees in a circle, and we're making a circle graph. So what we want to know is what is 26% of 360 degrees. So you're going to take your decimal, 26 hundredths, and since it's already in your calculator, multiply it times 360. And when you do that, you're going to calculate the angle degree. I think in this PowerPoint I actually did all the percentages first, so I'll go back and show you that in just a minute. Okay, so to figure out that 11 divided by 50, you just go 11 divided by 50. Your calculator would say 22 hundredths, so that's 22%. For bananas, it would be 30 hundredths, which is 30%. Grapes would be 6 hundredths, which would be, 12 hundredths, 12 hundredths, which would be 12%. And blueberries would be 10 hundredths, or 10%. Now, what's the easiest thing to do with your calculator, though, is to go ahead and go straight across 360 degrees in an angle. So, when you went 13 divided by 50 with your calculator, on your calculator it said 26 hundredths. Go ahead and say times 360, because you need this percent to be a decimal to multiply it times 360. So go ahead and do it while it says 26 hundredths on your calculator times 360 degrees. That's going to give you a 94-degree angle. When you did 11 divided by 50, you had 22 hundredths. Go ahead and multiply that times 360. That's going to give you your angle degree of 80 degrees. And that's going to work all the way down here. Here you went 15 divided by 50 with your calculator. You got 30 hundredths. Multiply that times 360 for 360 degrees. And you're going to get the angle of 108 degrees. This one would have been 12 hundredths on your calculator. Multiply it times 360, and you get 43 degrees. 5 degrees, this would have been 10 hundredths times 360, and so that would be 36 degrees. Now, when you add up all of the degrees, now there might be some rounding that takes place. So you may be rounding up. You might as well round to the nearest whole number. There is no reason to have an angle degree that's not a whole number. It may be 1 or 2 off since you did some rounding. But when you add all of these degrees up, they should become 360 degrees because there are 360 degrees in a circle. And when you add all the percentages up, they should equal 100% because that's what a circle graph does. It represents all 100%. Now, here comes the tricky part on our PowerPoint because I cannot show you my protractor on a PowerPoint video like this. But we are going to now learn how to graph it using a protractor. You start with a circle, and what I always do is I first start, you find the center approximately of the circle, and you're going to start with one line from the center to the edge. That's called a radius. You start with that line. Now, our first one was 94 degrees. So if I take my protractor, I'm going to kind of draw what your protractor would look like here. Take my protractor. My protractor's flat on the bottom, and it's curved like this. You're going to find that it's either a dot or it's a hole that goes right here to show where the center of your circle was. Lay that line down here on this line, and you're going to start reading here at 0, and you're going to read this way until you get to 94 degrees, which is a little bit more than 90. When you find that 94 degrees, you can put a point where that 94 degrees is, and then you can take a straight edge and you can draw the line, and it would look something like that. Now what I do is I take my protractor, and you can turn your paper, you can turn your protractor, but again you want to find that center dot right here where the center dot goes on your protractor. This line lines up with the line on your protractor, so you're laying your protractor basically like this. You start reading at 0, and you're going to read this way until you get to 80 degrees, which is the number of oranges. 80 is a little less than 90, so we know it's going to be somewhere around there. I don't have a protractor that I can pull up on my PowerPoint. So there's my oranges. And of course I'm going to label them as I'm going. Now I take my protractor, I put the center here, so I lay my protractor on here to look something like this. I start reading at 0, and I start reading this way until I get to 108 degrees. So 108 degrees is going to be down here somewhere. Then I draw my line, and I'm going to label that bananas. Now I take my protractor, put the center here, line the line up here. My protractor is going to be laying something like this now. Start reading at 0 and read this way until you get to 43 degrees, and it's going to be somewhere about there, and I'm going to label that grapes. And then the last section hopefully will be 36 degrees, and that would be blueberries. Now it's going to be hard to get it exactly, but just try to get it as close as you can. I hope you know how to read a protractor because it's hard to show on this. Now you can look at your pie graph or your circle graph and make some answers about it. Which two fruits accounted for a little less than a quarter of the fruit represented? Well, now you can look at the pie graph, and you know that a quarter is 1/4. And so down here, I see here's about a fourth right here. And what two fruit groups accounted for this would be the grapes and the blueberries. Which fruit was the most popular? Well, it's easy to look at. You look at the one with the biggest piece of the pie, so that would be bananas. So these are some things you can do. On your paper today, they're going to use the word central angle. When they use the word central angle, what they are talking about is what degree angle would it be. And remember, you figure that by taking the percent or the decimal, like this was 2600ths, and multiplying it times 360. And why is it 360? Because there are 360 degrees in a circle. So good luck with making your pie graphs. I hope you know how to use a protractor.